One of the ways to make sense of the history of Edendale is by helping us understand how Black people during the colonial era had access to land in a legal sense, of course, the Western way, and how they acquired skills, a wide range of skills like bricklaying, masonry, blacksmithing, and many others. How did all this happen? To tell you about this, I have to take us to Ingome River. This is at the bank of the river that the Impi Yasencome, also known as the Battle of the Blood River, happened in December 1838. At this battle, Andres Pretorius, the leader of the four trekkers at the time, won the battle. And for his victory in this battle, he earned himself a farm from Queen Victoria of Great Britain. He called the farm Veldverdend, meaning well-deserved. And this forms the basis of the place now called Edendale. As we pull out of Ingome or Blood River, you will see a whole bunch of mission stations, and these depict the work of Reverend Allison and the number of mission stations that he went to. And from each one of them, he would leave with a number of Amakolwa to go start a new mission station. And on it went like that until in 1851, where he had amassed a group of multi-ethnic families where he arrived in Veldverdend. Highlighted is white Pietermaritzburg on the right of Edendale and the Indian Pietermaritzburg, which are all signs of our racist heritage. As we fly into Pietermaritzburg, you will see Edendale, and right at the center of Edendale is where the farm was located. This is the farm that they bought together, and they called it Edendale. And the arrangement was they were going to have freehold titles once the full payment was made. And so, using their skills, they planted crops and vegetables, fed Pietermaritzburg. They had common land where their livestock grazed, and this was an industrious community. A whole lot of structures are still there, and we are now going to show them to you.
This is Nichols School, which was the center of the compound where you had the church, the house of the priest, and the school, of course. And we are going down Scott's Street. Now, if you can go back in the day and begin to imagine the life in the space of all those ladies, black ladies in corsets and wearing all these Kolwa clothes, walking up and down the street and just being people of the time. And you see the ladies, how well they will dress. Now imagine it's a Sunday and people are going to church. Look at Miss Minnie wearing her corset, being very English in Edendale, Georgetown. And the choir, of course, people were taught all of these new cultures. You were not allowed in Georgetown if you were wearing traditional clothes. And assimilation took many different formats. Music was one such a thing that needed to be done so that people don't go and sing like they used to sing in Dlambo and all of that. It had to be classical music. These were your standard kind of houses commissioned by the Health Commission. And you will see the same pattern to each house. Every house had to meet a particular standard. And the size of the house also talks to the status of the family that occupies that house. On top of Scott Street, you find the Mavuso house. This is where Mavuso Msimang would have grown up as a young man in Georgetown on the main street, Scott's Street. This is where Georgetown was becoming a fully fledged town and it had a mayor. Peter Brown was literally a mayor of Georgetown.
This is Andres Pitoria's old house. Apparently, it was one of the first buildings in Edendale before the non-level came into Edendale. It has now become part of Edendale Primary School. You see a library that was previously a courthouse that was used to solve legal matters. Then you see the actual house where you used to stay. We zoom into the Methodist Church compound. Previously, it had the Nuttall College, which was one of the first black teacher training colleges in South Africa. The Nichols Primary School is a building that was evacuated by the Nuttall College when it left for Edendale and Richmond in 1976. Eventually, the Nuttall College returned to Edendale, but this time it returned as Indumiso Teacher Training College. The Nuttall College was created for the sole purpose of teaching the natives the Bible and training them further to teach others. The college produced X.A. Tuma, an ANC former president. The Methodist Church compound had the college, a church, a boarding house, and a hut. This hut was used by an artist by the name of Gregan Bengu, who became a world-acclaimed artist. Bengu used to be a student here, training as a teacher. The principal, who was said to be his mentor, discouraged him to go for formal training. But however, one of Edendale's intellectuals, Triple R. Dlomo, commissioned work for Bengu in his book named Izikhaliza Namuhla. Most of his paintings were influenced by Christian imagery, but interestingly, he enjoyed patronage from white people who, however, preferred him to do work of his native people and surroundings.
We've just spent time at the compound and we are heading to the graveyard. And on our way, we pass the Edendale YMCA and we pass the Wadley Stadium, and behind the Wadley Stadium are the graveyards. And as you approach the graveyard, one thing that you notice is how the graveyard is divided according to surnames. You will find them Simangs, Gules, Kumalos, Minis, and many other surnames of prominent people or prominent families in Georgetown are buried here. It is a place of history. One of the interesting things about who got buried in this graveyard, you actually had to be an original title holder. So it means that you came with Allison. Your grandfathers and mothers actually came with Allison, and that gave you the right to be buried here. Also, another characteristic is that you have to be a Methodist. Not just a Methodist, but Methodist who originally came with Allison in Georgetown. And of course, you will see by the elegance of these tombstones, these people had money and they could actually afford, given the fact that they became probably the first middle class that we have in Black African communities. And so to be buried here, you needed to have some kind of qualification. And we take you from here now to another kind of a grave. This is the grave of the Reverend Enos Zwelabantu Sikhakhane, popularly known as EZ. EZ was born in 1917 and he passed on in 1993. And the trustees of the Lay Ecumenical Center pledged that his remains be buried here. EZ was a very gifted man. He could organize people. He could fundraise. And he finally went to Germany and he came back with very good sponsorship and started building this space, popularly known as the City Hall of Edendale. Now, the other part of the Lay Center that people forget is that of Ubaba Trimen Mazibuko. Ubaba Trimen Mazibuko was an agriculturalist, and he taught people organic farming and conservation. And he would have used this space to grow and to teach people. But more than that, the Edendale Lay Center became a place where people came and did different activities, from politics, church, weddings, concerts. But what I really want to talk about is the political life and the contribution of this establishment. In 1970, a conference was held here by SASO, and that conference was for the young people, mobilizing young school-going pupils. And this ultimately resulted in June 1976 Soweto uprising. It all started here. But we also know that in 1971, Itamasa conference was held here. Itamasa is International Association of African Ministers of Religion. That conference was held here, and many prominent people attended. For example, Gajabu Telezi and Steve Biko attended, gave a very good speech where he concluded as he was talking, probably standing in the stage, talking and saying, the greatest gift that Africa is yet to give to the world is giving the world the human face. The Edendale Lay Ecumenical Center was the home for the DCO Matiwane, which facilitated the underground activities of the ANC right here. In fact, leaders, many young men and women who went through DCO Matiwane became prominent political figures. To name but a few, I think of Sipho Shezi, Tamim Selegu, the contribution made by Babuzweli Mkhize and Umamume, and all those activities that were taking place right here. But who can ever forget the launch of the UDF in the early 80s? That was something else. And of course, this was the place where many people, when they died in the 7-Day War, their funerals were held here. We've given you a glimpse of the history of Edendale, the history of Georgetown. We have taken you to the church compound. We have taken you to Nsongweni graveyard, to the lay center. And you should have imagined the vibrancy of the place, the sophistication of the people who lived at the time, and how life could have been walking down that Scott Street. But you must have also seen how the life in Edendale, the infrastructure in Edendale is changing. We must have shown you that this is our heritage, but it is clearly changing and need to be protected. Georgetown was once a small village, but it's growing. It has grown. It's bigger. Half the population of the entire Msunduzi lives here. And that situation was obviously started changing with the 7-Day War, with many people coming into Edendale. And how in 1994, when people could actually go and buy outside of Edendale, then that human resource that Georgetown had disappeared. So this is the reason why we must preserve this piece of history, this heritage. Importantly, we must learn from our history so that we become a better society, better people moving forward.